How you doing, Barbara? Just the same one also. I mean, when it's me or I yell it, we do the same book all summer. Yeah, the one from the webpage. You got it. That's it. No changes. Hey, Sue. I'm here. You know. That's it. You want to light candles tonight? You have any interest? Yeah. Good. Yeah, of course. You can each have a candle. Yeah, all about doing. As long as you're not verblungert. The vermischt isn't so bad. The dreht so. Closing song. What do we usually do? Yeah. 6:27. That's not bad. Okay. We have people on Zoom, Christian? We got one. Okay, well, we'll hope. Oh, there's Jeff. 8 by a very liberal count. I got your email. Thank you. I very much appreciated. No, we're working. We're working our way. We're working our way to the minion.
Working our way back to you, babe.
There were all these Italian students. There was a line of students from Italy wrapped around the block when I got here. Like, yeah. Yeah, it was. But I should have said, are you Jewish? Are any of you Jewish? Oh, so nice to see people today. It's warm today, but the humidity is down somewhat. I had an unveiling at Beth David in Elmont, and I was in a suit, no tie. It was not terrible. It was not terrible. Okay. Alana, thank you for taking care of that note to Chesed. I appreciate that. Okay, 6:30. We'll give it another 2 minutes. Rabbi, good evening. Who's on? Oh, 4. We're ready to go then. Who's on there, by the way? Can we project everything up on our screen? They're seeing me, and people online are seeing the service booklet, but people here need earphones. Okay. So we are experiencing technical difficulties here in the live auditorium. People on the live stream, I think, have the PDF up, but if you you notice, we do not have the screen functioning for some reason, because in life there should always be something. Maybe we could bring down a few Sidurim, Mishkan Tefillah, and I will endeavor to call out page numbers. Somehow, yeah. I channeled that. I channeled that worry. Jewish. You never know. Oh God. Stacy.
Yes.
You want to hang on to it and keep it company?
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
Here, I'll take it. I'll take it. I do, but I have an extra. Yeah, yeah. I'm. Yeah, it's actually in
Well,
the
that one I saw the last time. Yeah, very nice. I wish I had a pool to jump into in this seat.
Shabbat Shalom. So here we are again, gathered in the auditorium of St. Francis College. And we express our gratitude to St. Francis for making it possible for us to have a cool, comfortable place of gathering for worship during these summer months, along with the technology. Normally we do manage to get the screen working, and hopefully for next week we'll figure out what's going on this week. But we are very lucky since we are in the midst of our construction project, and we are, dare I use the term, wandering Jews through probably the end of December of 2022. We hope to be back in our home, our newly combined home, 127, 131 Remsen Street. And in the meantime, we are in many locations depending on what it is that you are coming for. For the summer, we gather here either live or on the Zoom for Friday evening services, and for Saturday morning Havurah, our service and Torah study group. So I hope that I want to remind people also that St. Francis College Auditorium is handicapped accessible, it's wheelchair accessible. So if you're watching and you're thinking, gee, I wish I could be there, yes, you can be here. because it is an accessible facility. So please do come out if you want to be here. I also want to remind you that the second Friday night of each month and the second Saturday morning of each month, we continue to have as mask required, meaning that the rest of the time we are mask optional. If you wish to wear a mask, you are encouraged to do so. And if you're comfortable without, that's fine as well. But on the second Friday and the second Saturday, we're asking everyone to come masked for those who don't have the option. So please keep that in mind as well as August approaches. Lots of other things I'm sure I could probably point out. If you have a device that keeps you tethered to the outside world, this is a great time to check if you brought it with you, and if, like me, turn it to silent, vibrate, take out the battery, put it in airplane mode, whatever it is that helps you stay focused on the moment. We are going to take the journey of welcoming and inviting Shabbat. There's our Shabbat groom walking in the door even now. Welcome, Steve. And I want to remind everyone, especially if you're home and you're joining us on Zoom, get yourself situated so that when the time comes, you can, if you want, rise in place, face the doorway, all of the elements that make up our service. I say this week after week, there are a lot of different traditional elements, especially please rise and be seated. There's actually, I mentioned there's that book. It's an actual book, Please Rise and Be Seated, which often feels like it describes worship in synagogues. But if it's right, up and down and up and down. If you'd like to stay standing through the whole service, please do. If you'd like to stay seated through the service, the whole service, please do. In antiquity, there were no chairs. Everyone stood for the length of the service. It was a briefer service. Today we have longer services. We have chairs. Standing is focus our attention and our bodies. If that works for you, please do so. I want to invite Sue Gold and Barbara Chardon to come up to the candle table for the last activity of our work week. Which we say for 25 hours, our creative endeavors. Can I hold that?
Goddamn sure. Good choice, Alex. Dad, come on. Great place to get him from, Alex. How you gonna take the tunnel back?
And let's join together in singing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. It's always a good choice. Always a good choice. We are at the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat. Actually, just before that, I think we're at page 9, if I'm right, for our reading. There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain. Together on Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature, as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted. On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we are reminded that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat, day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace. You'll find some of the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat that move us through the 6 days of creation. Lechun Neranena on page 12. Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Ladonai. Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Ladonai. Naria, Litzor Yishenu Nikadma, Fana Bitoda. Naria, Litzor Yishenu, Bizmirod Narialo. Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Ladonai. Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Lechun Neranena, Ladonai. The last of the lines of the Hebrew on page 19. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom, v'shalom. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai oz le'amo yitain. Adonai yivarech et amo. Each week, I remind us that Shabbat is not only sacred time, it is also envisioned, embodied as sacred person, our beloved, the one who returns to us each week, whose return we await throughout the work week. Lecha dodi likrat kala, come with me, beloved, to meet the bride, queen, groom, king, lover, friend, whatever metaphor helps us to remember that each Shabbat we have a taste of eternity, a taste of what is yet to come, Mashiach's sight, a taste of what could yet be. And we join in that mystical hymn, Lecha Dodi. When we reach the last stanza, of course, we'll rise, we'll turn toward the entryway here in the auditorium. If you're at home, turning toward the entryway there, and bid Shabbat to enter and join us. Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Ishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, l'shem ultiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei
שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Page 21, fifth stanza. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורי קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. We rise, face the entryway for our final stanza, the ninth stanza. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Since we are standing, let me invite you to take a moment to wish Shabbat Shalom to those you've arrived with, and then take a moment to introduce yourself to someone standing in front of you or behind you. Learn a name. I want to welcome my colleague and our neighbor, Rabbi Stacy Bergman, who is joining us tonight. And hello to those who's on Zoom tonight, Christian. A good Shabbos to all. I hope everyone is saying, and I'm sorry we don't have your pictures up, and I see Michiko coming in as well. I'm sorry we don't have faces up on the screen. If you'd like to have a seat for a short while, you're certainly welcome to. I will be getting you up in short order, though, so fair warning as we turn to Psalm 92, the psalm that the Levites welcomed Shabbat with when the temple stood, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. Page 22. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, Tov leodot l'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon. Let's try that again. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, Tov leodot l'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon. Le'hagid b'boker kasdecha, be'emunatcha baliלות, alei asor le'alei einavel, alei higayon bechinor. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, Tov leodot l'Adonai, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon, u'lezamer l'shimcha elyon. Ki simchtani Adonai b'cholecha, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. Let me invite you, as you are able and desirous, to arise in body and or spirit as we come to Reader's Kaddish and the call to worship. We are at page 26 in the Purple. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yalma divrach hirultai, v'yamlich malchutai, b'chayechon u'miyomechon, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב ימרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה, שמי דקודשה ברכו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה וימרו, אמן. Call to worship, Baruch, page 28. ברכו את אדוני, to have a seat, we continue now with the creation prayer. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Find Ahavat Olam, page 32. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha Havta, Amecha Havta. בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. הם חיינו באורך ימינו ובהם נגע יומם ולילה, נגע יומם ולילה, באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. We're on page 39 as we read together. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, and that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, תורתי לא רוספל, תורתי לא רוספל, על לחותך ראו בניך, וכהים לפני משה ומרים, ya bye bye bim bam ya bye bye bim bim bam ya bye bye bim bam ya 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 bye bye bim bam ya 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 bye bye bim bam ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Ashkivenu, page 42. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzedenu uvoenu lechaim u'shalom ve'ata b'yad olam. V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Baruch atah Adonai haporeh sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo, ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Echad Ha'am reminds us that more than the people of Israel keeping Shabbat, Shabbat has kept the people of Israel. Exodus 31, the words of Vishamru. Vishamru Bnei Israel et HaShabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים את הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. I invite you, as you are able and desirous, to arise in body and or spirit for tefillah. We are on page 46 with a kavanah before Amidah. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu v'imoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך? מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יעלוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue through Tefillah. We are on page 56. I invite, if you'd like to remain standing, and that's your custom, please do so. If you prefer to have a seat, and that's your custom, please do so as well. We join together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha-Shabbat. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, shotecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. Page 58. Together, God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. The final prayer of Tefillah, the prayer for peace, Birkat Shalom, page 60. Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav al Yisrael lamcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael lamcha tasim leolam. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael lamcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael lamcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amecha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Baruch atah Adonai hamevarech et amo Yisrael bashalom. We praise you, Eternal One, for you are the one that blesses our people Israel and all peoples. We pray with peace. Take these moments for silent prayer and meditation, traditional texts found on page 62, 63, whatever our own hearts now prompt. Say shalom, shalom, bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom. So, for those of us who follow and live and sort of mark our weeks through the cycle of Torah, last week, of course, we got to hear the source for the wonderful words of blessing, Matovu, in Parshat Balak, a reminder of the power of words. But Parshat Balak is also, for those who read the weekly portion from beginning to end, which is a certain right. Many people, like some people, just read the one paragraph summary we email out with the weekly bulletin, and some people read a third of the weekly portion. In many conservative synagogues, they use something called the triennial cycle. And some people are really grateful that they're, paying attention, because there are other reasons you go to shul, right? So one of the things that I have noticed over the years for myself and many, many others of those who start to live in this cycle of the beginning and the end of Parashiyot is that last week you might have remarked the last part of last week's Parsha is completely out of the blue. Right? It's as if one finished the last chapter of a book, but then the publishing house gave you another story by that same author. You got that the first 4 pages of a new. They do that these days, by the way, right? They do that. They're called, right, the teasers, right? So, and if you read a bit more, last week ended with what was essentially what seemed like a teaser for this week's Parsha. This is, of course, the weekly story of not Balak and Balaam, but the weekly story of Pinchas. Pinchas is, of course, Aaron's grandson. And if last week's story was a story about the uplifting power of words, right? Balaam goes to curse the Israelites. God puts words of blessing in his mouth instead. This week is very different. It's not about words. To summarize the chapter, what's taking place at the end of last week's Parsha, just in case you missed it. So I'll remind my teacher, Dr. Leonard Kravitz, always likes to say, I know that you know this, but you may have forgotten. So, to summarize the chapter, the Israelites still wandering. By the way, this is late in the wandering, right? So this is like 38, 39, 40th year. We've already skipped ahead the 40 years. They're still wandering. They're at a location called Shittim when they decide apparently to join with the Moabite women in a local festival, right? The Moabite women say, come and join us at our local festival, which the Torah characterizes as the idolatrous worship of the Moabite gods. Now keep in mind that the Moabite king, Balak, he's the one for whom the weekly Torah portion last week was named. He had just tried to lay a whammy, a real whammy, like a curse. Had tried to lay a whammy on the Israelites and failed. God who doesn't take kindly, I am a jealous God, right? God who doesn't take, I always like to point out, right? What do we know about idolatry and adultery? Monogamy and monolatry, right? They all go together. God doesn't take kindly to God's people worshiping other gods, and God apparently demands that Moses publicly impale all the tribal leadership. It's a great scene. not really PG. Moses delegates the task, because he doesn't want to do it. A divine plague, meanwhile, breaks out amongst the Israelites. Amid all this, so societal breakdown in the middle of the desert, an Israelite man, in apparently full view of the community, brings a Midianite woman into his tent. Now, just pretend I said Moabite, because the fact that she's referred to as a Midianite only complicates everything. And apparently the Torah is constantly confusing Midianites and Moabites, and I don't really want to go there. Although apparently it should be, Moses is married to the daughter of the priest of Midian, but okay, we're going to leave that alone. So, an Israelite man in full view of the community brings a Moabite woman into his tent, and yes, we've switched between these two groups. Phineas, right? Pinky. That's the nickname in America, right? Someone whose name is Pinky Zuckerman, right? So Pinchas. Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the high priest, and Aaron has died, so Eleazar is now high priest, right? Aaron had 4 sons, 2 died in the conflagration, right? So Pinchas is the son of Eleazar, the high priest. Pinchas sees this, and he abandons his place in the communal assembly. He grabs his spear in hand, because when you're wandering through the desert, you always have your trustworthy spear in hand, and he rushes uninvited into the man's tent, finding the couple in an undescribed but pretty clear compromising position. He runs them through belly to belly in flagrante delicto with his spear, okay? The plague ceases immediately. The plague ceases immediately. There at Numbers 25, verse 9, Parshat Balak oddly ends. He spears them, the plague ends, done, story's over. Can you imagine? That's like, some teaser. It picks up the next sentence, verse 10, is the beginning of, if you come tomorrow, Yigal Reckman will be leading the Torah study tomorrow. You can pick up with Numbers chapter 25, verse 10, which is the beginning of the Parsha. I'll remind you, we did not number the chapters. The numbering of the chapters is courtesy of other people, not Jews. The versification is ours, the parashiot are ours, but chapters, that's from England, and it's not our doing, okay? So for us, the Parsha begins tomorrow with verse 10, which we name, of course, for Pinchas. We are now offered a public commendation spoken by God to Moses. We read, Pinchas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the people of Israel by displaying among them his passion for me, zealotry, right? So that I did not wipe out the people of Israel in my own passion. So his passion has taken away my passion, balanced out. Say therefore, I grant to him, to Pinchas, my pact of friendship, Brit Shalom, really, pact of peace. It shall be for him and his descendants after him a pact of priesthood for all time, because he took impassioned action for his God, thus making expiation for the Israelites. Actually, he doesn't need a Brit of priesthood. He already has it from his grandpa Aaron, but okay. The remaining verses of chapter 25 detail the names and the tribal affiliations of both the Israelite man and the Midianite Moabite woman, right? As well as a divine command to assail the Midianites now for their treachery. It's as if you could not get New Jersey and New York straight. Feels that way. And yes, you will remember correctly, as I said, that Moses is in fact married to a Midianite, Zipporah. Her dad, Jethro, was the tribal leader of Midian. Chapter 26 takes up a lengthy census, yet again, of the Israelite tribes, their subclans. Chapter 27 recounts what I think is really one of the most promising elements in the study of the weekly portion, the daughters of Tzelophehad, the fellow who died for some mysterious unmentioned sin and only has daughters, and they go to Moses and say, wait a second, we don't have any brothers, why should we lose our tribal inheritance? And he says, I don't know, I'll go to talk with God, and God says, they're right. So there you go. Just a reminder that even in the Torah, sometimes you have to go and seek an answer. The commissioning of Joshua as Moses' successor, along with a reminder that Moses is to be punished for not being allowed to enter the promised land. It's all in this week's portion. Chapters 28 and 29 are a very detailed listing of animal, grain, and liquid sacrifices to be offered to God daily, weekly, monthly, and on Shabbat and holy days. In fact, for those of you who those of us who grew up learning to chant Torah, Parshat Pinchas 28 and 29 is the big expanded priestly sacrificial list that's read on holidays. It's kind of a complement to Leviticus 23, and in fact it's a little bit more expansive. It mentions Rosh Chodesh, it mentions the daily sacrifice, which are not mentioned in Leviticus 23. So, back to our beginning. Without doubt, the 18 verses of chapter 25. Chapter 25 has 18 verses. They are evenly split between the end of Parshat Balak last week and Parshat Pinchas this week. That can't be an accident, right? The choice to divide this brief and violent narrative chapter between the end of one parasha and the beginning of another serves, in my mind, only to diminish and isolate a story that the rabbis didn't know exactly what to do with but could not eliminate altogether. So if you can't eliminate a story, what do you do with it? You chop it in half so that people kind of nishka. The Talmudic rabbis are clear that this story is not under any circumstance to be used as a justification for anyone, lest you feel inspired to do as Pinchas did. Our rabbinic sources struggle with the absence of any juridical process or deliberative body before Pinchas literally takes the law into his own hands. This contravenes the rabbi's own judicial norms, and therefore they try to recast, to minimize, to isolate Pinchas's actions. A conversation preserved in the Talmud of the land of Israel, the Yerushalmi Sanhedrin, suggests that were it not for God's reward of eternal priesthood to Pinchas and his descendants, the sages would have excommunicated him. The Jerusalem Talmud doesn't define the rabbi's precise objections to Pinchas's actions, and they concede that he acted in accord with the Torah's laws. And still they declare, Shelo beratzon hachamim. It did not accord with the desire of the sages. People shouldn't take the law into their own hands. Even within the hand-scribed letters of the Torah scroll, and I always like to point out to you what's actually scribed in the scroll, there is an ancient indication of concern about Pinchas's actions. The so-called covenant of friendship, the Brit Shalom, the covenant of peace, given to Pinchas in reward for his actions, is scribed in most scribal traditions, which are considered to be older than rabbinic traditions, with a broken letter Vav. So the word Shalom, Shin Lamed Vav Mem, right? So the Vav is actually scribed like a Yud, a break, and a dash. A broken Vav. That broken Vav has an implication that the Shalom, the Brit Shalom that's been given to Pinchas, isn't quite what it seems. The implication is that something is imperfect here. In fact, several commentators opine that the covenant of peace is actually, Shalom can mean a whole lot of things. Like when we sang Adonai Oz, right there in parallel, it probably means victory. Because sometimes when you win, you're at peace, you have victory. But Shalom here probably means, Brit Shalom probably means a covenant of restraint, an imposition of peace upon Pinchas and his offspring, who have apparently inherited violent inclinations. How could that be? Well, they are from the tribe of Levi. And remember, Levi is accounted a fairly violent figure in his own lifetime. Pinchas' assignment as a priest, then, is not so much a reward as a divine attempt to curb his tendencies toward violence. We have a job for you, Pinchas. It'll keep you out of trouble. Hence the Brit Shalom. The tradition of Levi, who you recall with his brother Simeon slaughtered an entire village for the rape of his sister Dinah, the tradition of Pinchas's violence himself in the tent, and Elijah, the main character in the accompanying Haftarah tomorrow, as hotheads is worth mentioning. In fact, I'll point out that in rabbinic legend, his death is never reported. Many people have their deaths recorded, not Pinchas. According to rabbinic legend, he lives. He gets the Brit Shalom. Who does he become? Elijah the prophet. And that's why at a bris, if you pay attention, like when Cantor Phil Sherman comes, he actually recites that verse from the beginning. I make this covenant of peace with you, when he points out the chair of Elijah. So Pinchas in rabbinic tradition is considered to be Elijah. These are all men. Might I point out they're men? These are all men who have a tendency toward immediate and violent response. And the Torah and the sages are aware of this problem. It is all too easy then to simply dismiss them or isolate them, which is exactly how we deal with their problematic behaviors and stories. They are them, thank God, not us. But perhaps, just perhaps, we might try to look for and acknowledge that for better and for worse, there's a bit of them in each of us. A tendency in most human beings toward rash, immediate judgment and action. A desire to take judgment, to take the law into our own hands. A willingness to feed our own righteous indignation. The dividing, the literal breaking of this narrative between two weekly portions is a message, I think, to each of us to break and stop, to control and isolate our own tendencies toward snap judgment and self-righteousness. Most of us are unlikely, I think, to take a spear in hand, if only because we don't tend to wander around with spears in hand these days. But the power of our words and other actions and other tools can be just as penetrating and even deadly. The cautionary rabbinic lesson of Parshat Pinchas is that being right in our viewpoint or judgment doesn't automatically make our actions in response right or just. Instead, we must separate, divide our actions, our responses from our immediate reactions and judgments. Only then can we hope to establish a Brit Shalom, a lasting and real peace, where the letter Vav is full and complete. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to share names for those in need of blessing or healing. Let me share aloud. You can find, by the way, Debbie Friedman, Sholom's setting of the Misha Beirach, page 253. When we call to mind on the Shabbat Eve, Lori Blum, Gloria Sancho, Jenny St. George, Chava Gittel Bat Freda, Yona Chaya Bat Miriam, Ruth Bat Binyamin Vechava, Steve Brown Inns, Yona Tevya Ben Label Vegeta Henya, Renee Fishzone, Moshe Ben Leah, Nancy Lazar, Delroy Aline, Max Estroff, Heike Bat Freda, Kim Petchek, Peggy Einhorn, Bruce Shapiro Nygren, Eleanor Shapiro Nygren, Bela Rivka, Bat Shmuel Pesach Esther, Susan Sonkin, David Stephen Cohen, Peter Hort, Vlada Rusev, Nick Boyer, Eileen Dernfeld, Tom Walton, Chris Adam, Tim Weber, Jay Wertheimer, Ari Gilbert, Esther Batchaya Sora, Michelle Goldsmith, Richard Nicholson. If you have names you'd like to share. Do we have any on Zoom? We join together in singing the Misha Beirach.
Of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yishaberach imotzeinu, mikor habracha lavotzeinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Cain Yehi Ratzon, be God's will. We're on pages 258 and 259. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance, and may they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country sound in body and spirit. Amen. O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Grant them deliverance from every adversary and danger. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen. Before we turn to Elenu, I'm not going to bench Rosh Chodesh, but next Friday, this coming Thursday, Friday, if Elijah doesn't arrive with a Shabbat, is Rosh Chodesh Av. So we are in the midst of the 3 weeks that lead up to Tisha B'Av, and then on Friday, the first of the 9 days, of course, that lead up to Tisha B'Av. Of course, this year you've noticed, if you're paying any attention to the cycle, all of the fast days are pushed. The only fast day we observe on Shabbat is Yom Kippur. So the fast days are shifted, even though the 9th of Av is on a Saturday. Tisha B'Av will be observed Saturday night, Sunday, technically on the 10th of Av. And we will have a morning Zoom service on that Sunday morning that Cantor Porzakansky will be leading. So you'll get her lovely voice and the taste of the observance, a little bit of a taste of Megillat Eicha, the scroll of Lamentations, and its unique dirgeful tones, a reminder of the destruction of Jerusalem. I'm going to invite once again, as you are able and desirous, to arise in body and or spirit. We are at Elenu on page 283, page 283. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, בגורלנו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר ארץ, ראש ויקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך. כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, השבת thoughts turn to those who are gathered with us through the blessing of memory. We call to mind Nikki Nechama Rosenbaum, that's Dan Rosenbaum's mom, was laid to rest on Thursday. There will be Shiva Minyans Sunday and Monday evening. They're sitting Shiva 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. The Minyans at 7:30. Rabbi Sue Warren will be leading the Minyan on Sunday night. I'll be leading the Minyan on Monday night. I think it's 1809 Glenwood, no, not Lane, I think it's Lane, but who knows? You'll check the thing, it'll tell you. I dropped off the books today. I put it in the GPS, that's how I get everywhere these days, right? Got there. So our condolences to Dan and Olivia, boys, and the whole family. We also extend our continued condolences to Sharon Kosikoff, Mike McQuillan, family, on the passing of Esther Kosikoff. Condolences to Diana and Jim Deutsch on the passing of Faith Dorfman, Diana's mom. And condolences to Carolyn and Richard Ziegler on the passing of Carolyn's dad, Robert Sayer Lewis. We also extend condolences to our Hebrew specialist, Shiraz Biggie, on the passing of her grandmother, Aviva Mendelssohn. We also mark yard sites this week in my family, the passing the yard site for Harry Spire, my father-in-law's dad, passing of Joshua Field, recalled by Matthew Bloom, Ruth Hoffenberg, recalled by the community, Nachum Bogomolny, recalled by Mark Rissis, Gerard Newsy, recalled by Ellen Kaufman Newsy, and Josephine Feller, recalled by Joyce Raskin, passing at this season of my dad, Michael Lipp, recalled by my family, passing at this season of Harry Kugler, recalled by Jerry Kugler, passing of Edward Leonard, recalled by Evie Leonard, Mary Krasnick, recalled by the congregation, Israel Ritberg, recalled by Kim Ritberg and Alexander and Nathan and Lily, and the whole mishpacha. It's hard to, that was just last year, wow. And Ellen, of course. The passing of Saul Nagler, the uncle of Nancy Lazar, Milton Meyer, recalled by the congregation, Genevieve Simmons, recalled by Hildy Simmons, Irene Alpert, recalled by Brooke Lux, Rose Silverman, recalled by Jane Myers, Joanne Freed, recalled by Sue Gold, Samuel Haber Zimmerman, recalled by Michael Zimmerman, Jacqueline Meyer, recalled by Lindsay Engler, Gayla Gulak, recalled by Eric and Jennifer Committee, Anita Bouchard, recalled by Dorothy Lam, Estelle Willis, recalled by Anita Goldstein, Jeremy Epstein, recalled by Amy and Josh, and Molly Epstein and the entire congregational community, Max Lerman, recalled by Barbara Lerman Gollum, and Ella Quinton, recalled by Sue Gold, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. If I've inadvertently left off any names that you are reciting Kaddish for tonight, or if I've mispronounced any of those names, I want to invite you to share those names aloud or on the Zoom chat. We join together in sanctifying their names and memories, even as we sanctify God's name. And we pray for the coming of God's realm, the Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, page 296, as we join together as a community. Yit Kadal v'yit Kadash Shemeh Rabbah, Ba'alma divrach Hirutei v'yamlich Malchutei, V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'galau v'izman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitroman v'yitnasei, Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, Shemei d'kudsha b'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tush bechata v'nechemata, Damiran bi'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlam rabba min shamayim v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. May the source of peace on high cause peace to descend upon us, all Israel, our entire world, and let us say, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru. Amen. You're welcome to stay standing for Adon Olam or be seated. And just a couple of quick words. Adon Olam is page 321. Tomorrow morning, again, Yigal Reckman will be our lay leader walking us through Parshat Pinchas. Next week, I will be leading services solo on Friday night. Miriam, I think we have you down for vacation. Good. So please take it and enjoy it. I will attempt to find as good a set of keys as you offered to me tonight. That was terrific. Christian, we'll look forward to seeing you next week, keeping us in the ether, with very much appreciated, and hopefully we'll figure out what to do with that screen back there. I'm also leading Havurah next Saturday morning, so you can come and hang with me if you like, and then I'll be on vacation for August, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone, God willing, again in September. The holidays are late, so yeah, we're there right on time, as we always say. Closing song, Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et nasa v'chetzo kol zay melech shemo nikra zay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado imloch nora ve'hu haya ve'hu hove ve'hu yeh b'tifara ve'hu yeh b'tifara ve'hu echad niyeh sheni le'am shelo להכבירה בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, בלא העוז והמשרה, בלא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי בחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו הפקיד רוחי, תישן ביעירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא יירא, אדוני לי ולא יירא. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're going to make Kiddush right up the stairs.